Alright, now this week I'm going to talk about your top 5 fantasy QBs in the NFL. Number 1, the obvious choice, Patrick motherfucking Mahomes. Did amazing last year, destroying everybody in fantasy football. Nobody saw it coming, and now Patrick Mahomes is your clear-cut number 1. He threw for over 5,000 yards and 50 TDs last year. He can do it on the ground a little bit as well. He's a top-notch QB. Stands alone in tier 1 in my opinion. Even with regression, he should still win the QB1 spot. With Tyreek Hill, Travis Kelce, Sammy Watkins, speedy draft pick Hardman. This guy should continue to roll even without Kareem Hunt. He's a bit fortunate Tyreek Hill hasn't been suspended, but wow, look out. And everybody forgets how much room Tyreek Hill still has to grow. You might see him coming up on my wide receivers talk a little later on in 2 weeks. Next week I think I'm going to do running backs, and then I'll do wide receivers / tight ends, maybe a couple sleepers the week after that. What else can I say about Mahomes? The Kansas City Chiefs, 25 fucking points every single fucking game last year, including the playoffs. How can you go wrong picking Patrick Mahomes as your number 1 QB? Number 2, Deshaun Watson, Houston Texans. Not only do they have a phenomenal defense, which should help Deshaun Watson get on the field more often, hopefully take advantage of tired defenses because his defense has kept that side of the ball clean. Watson's running ability, what did he have? Let me check my stats here. 5 TDs on the ground, over 500 yards last season, 26 TDs and 4,100 yards through the air. He has tons of room to grow as he coming off an ACL injury from 2 years ago. Played through the recovery last year. Also played with another his chest or his back last year? I believe it was a chest injury for Deshaun Watson, if I remember right. I didn't write it down here. Sorry about that, guys. And combine all the above facts with dual threat quarterbacks. You'll notice a theme in my selections here, what I tell you going forward with quarterbacks. Dual threat quarterbacks in the NFL are huge for fantasy football. They mean so much for your points, your average points per week, your high ceilings, etc. Number 3, and Kiki Kute, DeAndre Hopkins, Fuller, one of the best trios of wide receivers in the NFL. If they can stay healthy, remember Kute and Fuller got hurt last year on Deshaun Watson. So with that trio in full health, Watson could take the QB1 spot from Mahomes this year. I would not be at all surprised if Watson was the QB1 when all is said and done. Moving on to number 3, Aaron Rodgers. One of the safest fantasy quarterback picks you can make. He's played 9 full seasons healthy, Aaron Rodgers. 7 of those 9 seasons, he's been a QB2 or QB1. If that's not consistency, I don't know what is. Even off a bad year last year, playing under that shitty-ass fucking coach McCarthy. Now he's out from under that. LaFleur should give him a much more dynamic offense. He's got the reliable Devontae Adams leading the wide receiver corps. You got the 2 young kids coming up. Jimmy Graham, Mercedes Lewis at tight end. Valdez Scantling is the one young kid, and St. Brown, the other young kid, the wide receivers. Rodgers should find a connection with them. He is one of the best quarterbacks I've seen in my life. I'm 46 years old. I've been around for a little bit. I've seen Marinos, the Elways, etc., etc. You see Marino hanging on my wall right there. You see Barry Sanders just next to him as I learn to point the right way while I'm on camera. Just phenomenal Aaron Rodgers as a QB. And Green Bay has improved their defense this year. Like I said about the Texans, that should give Rodgers a little bit more opportunity on the field, a little more often. And consistency is a big thing in fantasy football. Aaron Rodgers, one of the most consistent quarterbacks in the last 9 years. Coming in at my number 3. Number 4, Andrew Luck. I originally had you slated in as my number 2, but your injury woes in the past, and now your latest little ankle issue, we'll say, going on in training camp that's not going to see you hit the field for who knows when, probably not till week 1 if I was you, honestly. Why fucking risk it if you're the Colts? You got a phenomenal fucking quarterback, and every season he's been healthy. The 4 consecutive years when he's played 15, 16 games in the year, he's been a top fantasy QB. Last year, I forget where he slid in, but Andrew Luck, plays behind one of the best offensive lines in football, in my opinion, the number one O-line in the NFL. And this all bodes well for him going forward. He's got an array of weapons on the field. He's got Hilton, Hines, Ebron, Doyle, Campbell, Mack. It shouldn't matter what down position, field position, where you are. You got speed, you got outlets, you got backs, you got tight ends, you got somebody at every position that can do something for you to get you yards, get you touchdowns, no matter where the field position is or how desperate you are. Hopefully, Luck can bounce back from that. You know he's got the arm strength. He still tossed for over 4,500 yards and 39 TDs last year. So even if he gets somewhere close to that, he's still going to finish in the top 5 fantasy quarterbacks. And number 5, I know all you fucks out there are going to call me biased on this one, but bear with me for a second. And remember, in 2017, before Wentz got hurt, yes, that's right, Carson fucking Wentz is my number 5 fucking pick for Fantasy QBs. And the reason being is 2017, the 14 weeks he was healthy, he played for, he was second or first in fantasy points, period. He's now had a year to recover from the ACL. He battled through the back issues last year. The Eagles were beat up on both sides of the ball. You got one of the top 3 offensive lines in football, one of the top 3 defensive lines in football, which all leads well. To me, the lines are the keys in football. If you don't have a good O-line or a good D-line, you're fucked. I don't care who your fucking quarterback is, who your fucking running back is. Ask Saquon Barkley in New York how he feels with just running behind that shitty fucking O-line they put in front of him for the last few years. Ask Eli Manning how he likes it. You think that affects his sack numbers, his interception numbers, etc., etc.? So, whatever. Anyways, back to Wentz. Carson Wentz. They've added Deshaun Jackson, a legit speedy threat. 14 of his top fastest times were clocked last year, I believe, if I remember correctly from what I read. He's got Zach Ertz and Dallas Goedert, who might even be better than Zach Ertz, or at least close to it, which might take away from Ertz's tight end numbers this year, but we're not talking about the fucking tight ends today. Then you got the likes of Alshon Jeffrey, the J-Jaw, the rookie they drafted, or Aaron Sigi Whiteside, I forget how to pronounce that first part of his hyphenated name. And you've drafted Miles Sanders, who's far and away in training camp so far the Eagles' best back. You added Jordan Howard. You got Nelson Aguilar. You got so many weapons all over the field. You can do it from everywhere. Dump offs, the creative Doug Peterson coaching. Hopefully he just lets everything out of the bag like he did in 17 again. And Carson Wentz should be able to find enough fantasy points. They should have one of the top scoring offenses in the NFL, which leads to fantasy points, usually for your backs and your QBs especially. So I'm picking Wentz as my bias. And now, obviously, once I got past Patrick Mahomes and Deshaun Watson, I felt it was a toss-up. Like, you could have added Matt Ryan, who I held off because in the last 4 years, I believe he's finished as QB2 twice and outside of the top 15 QBs twice. So he's got zero consistency, but it's really tough when you get to throw to fucking Julio Jones every fucking week. That's just, oh man, that dude is phenomenal, some of the shit he does. So Matt Ryan, it was hard leaving you off this list. Baker Mayfield, man, that kid had a phenomenal fucking rookie season last year. Let me see some of these numbers. What did he complete? Over 65% of his passes in his rookie season. They've added Odell Beckham Jr. Kareem Hunt suspended for the first 8-9 games, whatever the fuck it is. But once he comes back, there's a dual threat out of the backfield for Mayfield. Mayfield can do it on his legs as well when need be. You know, he's not going to run for a ton of yards like maybe a Deshaun Watson or like a Josh Allen or Lamar Jackson or somebody like that. But he will be tight. And if the Browns can actually do something this year and live up to all the hype, then it wouldn't surprise me for Baker to even creep up into the number 3, as high as number 3, maybe even number 2 in fantasy. Could win it. Don't see it. But hey, I'm not going to count it out. Anything can fucking happen. This is the NFL, right? Who else did I have? Drew Brees, tough to leave him off my list. Obviously, I'm leaving out a bunch. Even Dak Prescott. He should be able to put up some numbers with the offensive weapons he has all around the field as well. If you want a sleeper pick, though, later in the draft, somebody that doesn't get talked about, I haven't seen ranked too high in any of the fucking rankings I've looked at, is Lamar Jackson in Baltimore Ravens. He's worked on his passing, and a dual threat quarterback who can run the ball and throw the ball in fantasy football is like a goddamn fucking cheat code in a video game. Like you're playing Grand Theft Auto and then you discover all the fucking cheat codes that give you all the unlimited weapons, the helicopters, the planes, the fucking cars landing wherever the fuck you want. It's like a total cheat code having a dual threat QB. And Lamar Jackson only started in 7 fucking games last year, and he had more rushing attempts by any QB in NFL history. NFL fucking history. So if he can complete around 60% of his passes, they've added a few pieces in Baltimore. Not really sure what they're doing. I'm picking them to win that division this year. Not the Cleveland Browns, not the Pittsburgh fucking Steelers. I'm picking the Baltimore Ravens. I've already put money on them. Look for Lamar Jackson. If you're stuck for a quarterback late in like a 12-team league or something, you might be able to get a sleeper with him. And he could do you wonders. Anyways, that's the end of the first episode, everybody. Peace.